Fiance soon-to-be wife finds out about my big emergency fund and suddenly wants to turn into a stay-at-home mother and threatens to leave me over it because she believes her wanting to stay at home and raise our future baby is nothing short of an emergency and is mad because I'm not stopping her canceling the wedding over her insane demands. I am in a really difficult position right now. My fiancée is threatening to cancel our wedding and it's because I don't want to agree to her becoming a stay-at-home mother after we get married. Mostly because we don't even have kids yet. We are both 28 and we're not even planning on having kids for the next 2 to 3 years. All this happened because a couple of days ago, we were both sitting with our parents and discussing the budget of the wedding. Her and my parents have decided to split the cost of the wedding between themselves and given everything that we had decided on, they figured that we were slightly above budget, but my fiancée, let's call her Ada, did not want to budge on anything. She kept insisting that she was only getting married once, so she wanted to do it right and wanted everything to be done her way. So eventually, I suggested that maybe I could contribute a little bit because I had some money saved up and that's how the problem was solved. Later on, Ada asked me exactly how much money I had saved, so I told her about it and it was quite a significant amount. It had to be because for the past 6 years, ever since I got my first proper job, I have been putting aside a chunk of my salary for the future on a monthly basis. I don't touch this because it's being kept aside for emergencies. I learned this lesson the hard way when I was in college, when my dad ran into a bit of financial trouble with his company so he couldn't send me any money for a good few months while I was in college. I was lucky enough to have other relatives that I could count on like my grandparents and my maternal uncle, so it's not like I was completely stranded without any money. It was still quite embarrassing for all of us and even though my dad paid everybody back as soon as he got back on his own 2 feet, is something that we haven't been able to live past. So since then, I had made up my mind that whenever I started working, I would definitely keep money aside for emergencies like this because there's no telling what might happen in the future. My dad hadn't bothered to save so diligently, which is why he got into so much trouble and had to face so much embarrassment, and as much as I love him, I didn't want to go through the same thing and I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't recommend being reckless with money like he had been either. So this particular fund, it was my emergency fund and it was not for any other sort of use and I'm very particular about it. I hadn't even brought it up with Aida until recently and that's just because it had to come out. But other than that, I didn't see the point of mentioning it to her because this was for emergencies. It's not like we were facing one right now, but after I told her about the fund and I mentioned how much money I had saved until now, she got really upset with me. She was mad because I hadn't mentioned it to her earlier and the reasons for which I have already mentioned, and on top of that, she was also mad because she suggested that since I had so much money saved up, she could just quit her job now and be a housewife and in the future after we had kids, she would be a stay-at-home mom. But I told her that we couldn't afford this at the moment because then I would need to live off my savings and that's not what I wanted. This was for the future, for unforeseen events, and right now we had to stick to our means instead of wasting my savings. Both of us are perfectly able-bodied and fine. We can work to support ourselves, so I think that's what we should do instead of relying on my savings. I tried to explain to her that this fund was for emergencies in the future, but she told me that if she had known about it, she would have communicated her feelings about wanting to be a housewife right from the beginning. But she didn't say anything because she thought that we wouldn't be able to afford it and she didn't want me to feel bad. Now, the situation has changed and she thinks that what she wants is no less than an emergency, which is obviously ridiculous. I have stuck to my guns and I told her that right now we can't be frivolous about money and just do whatever we want to. So far she has worked and until she has kids I think that she should work because otherwise I won't be able to support both of us on my salary alone. And she keeps saying that we can just use the money from my savings even though I've made it very clear that it's off limits. She keeps saying that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom even though we don't have kids and I don't think it's worth it to quit her job right now thinking about our future baby that's basically just imaginary right now. We've been fighting about it for the past couple of days and recently she told me that she was going to cancel the wedding if I did not agree to her terms. I had had enough of her insane demands as well, so I told her that if that's what she wanted she could go ahead. I wasn't going to stop her. It hurt me to say that, but she was pushing me and I wasn't ready to budge and neither was she. So after I said that, I wasn't going to stop her. She stopped speaking to me altogether and this morning, she went back to her parents' place and sent me a text saying that she couldn't believe that I was letting her go so easily. Since then, I've been feeling terrible about everything that's happened and I'm wondering now if Ida for not telling her about the fund in the beginning itself. Edit. Audrey and I have been together for the past 2 years and we have had our disagreements, but it has never been about money. We've always kept our finances separate and never once have I ever thought of her as a gold digger. It makes me feel weird to even use that term for her, even when I'm saying that I've never thought of her as one, but it's true. In fact, she has also given me a lot of very expensive gifts over the past couple of years and I don't think that's what a greedy person would do. So this sudden change in behavior doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, to answer the question that you guys had, no, She's never behaved like this before and we have always kept our finances separate. So we have never thought about money matters before this. Also, yes, she is aware of everything that has happened in the past with my dad. Even though she did not know about the emergency fund, she knew about what we had been through and how embarrassing for me. Even in general, I don't overspend or overindulge myself often and she knows why. So it feels like she knows everything and in spite of that, she's simply choosing not to understand why I want to save in case of emergencies. I had even brought it up while we were fighting and even then it just didn't seem to make a difference to her at all. Update 1. Hey, thanks for all the comments, guys. 3 days have passed since Ada left and I had been thinking about whether I should reply to her text or not. But ultimately, I decided not to because I already knew that no good was going to come out of it. If she wanted to come back and make this work, she would do it herself. And besides, the last few days that we spent together before we went back to her parents' place, we were only fighting. We were literally either fighting with each other or we were not speaking to one another at all and I was getting sick of it. So I decided that now if she comes back, it's going to be only if she realizes her fault and feels sorry for it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to try and mend the situation because I haven't done anything. I guess I should have told her about the emergency fund, but in all honesty I just didn't think it was that important because like I said, we were not in a crisis right now, so I just didn't think it was important to bring it up. But anyway, I think as far as my mistakes go that would be my only one. Not being completely transparent, that too unintentionally. However, I don't think that we can even compare our mistakes because I don't think she's making a mistake here. I just think that she's being plain selfish and unreasonable. She knows exactly what she's doing and if she wants to stick to it and cancel our wedding then that's her personal choice. There are still a few months left to go so we might just get back a couple of our deposits and even though we might not get a full refund we will still get something. So if she wants to cancel the wedding she should go ahead right now while we're in the time limit to get our money back. Other than that, I have nothing to say about her. She hasn't messaged me apart from that one text that she sent, neither have her parents reached out to me. But I have spoken to my parents and they think that I'm on the right track, so let's see where this goes. Update 2. So it's been 1 full week since she left and we stopped speaking to each other. I had already made up my mind that if she did not speak to me by the end of this week, then I would speak to our parents and tell them that we were calling off the wedding. Luckily she showed up today, just in the nick of time. She was visibly upset when I opened the door to let her in and as soon as she was inside, she started telling me that if I was going to act like this, then this relationship was not going to work. The fact that she was accusing me of behaving a certain way when it was actually she who had been acting differently all along just didn't sit right with me. So even though I had thought that I was going to keep my cool, I ended up getting very upset with her, and I told her that if she seriously thought that this was my fault, then maybe we really should call off the wedding and let each other go. I told her that I couldn't handle this anymore, that this was getting way too much for me to deal with and maybe it would just be better to end this engagement and relationship. That's when she started panicking and she told me that she had come over to fix things with me so we should focus on that instead of being so negative right from the beginning because we have made it work for 2 years. We can make it work for longer and I agree, we have made it work for 2 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we will be able to make it work forever, especially when it's clear that both of us have very different opinions on what to do with money and whether we like it or not. Finances are a huge part of marriage and I know people who have even gotten divorced over it. I didn't want to end up like that because once we got married we don't break up, we get divorced and that's a huge deal, not just financially but also emotionally. Marriage is a huge commitment and I told her that I don't want to get into it with somebody who chooses not to understand certain things about me and my relationship with money. I was also quite upset by then and I guess she heard that, so she started being a little more gentle with me. She asked me to sit down so we could really talk this through because she wanted to make it work. So that's what I did. I sat down and I thought that she was going to try and understand my point of view. But instead, she just started harping on about the same things over and over again. She was speaking in a much gentler tone, but she was still saying the same things that she just wanted to stay at home and handle the household chores because that's what she had wanted all along. The only reason she hadn't brought it up with me was because she thought that we wouldn't be able to afford it, but now, knowing that we will be able to afford it, it changes everything and she just wants me to understand that this would make her really happy. She also told me that she understands my relationship with money. It's complicated but keeping everything aside and never using it and working ourselves to the bone just because I'm expecting an emergency that might not even happen is ridiculous and I need to let go of my fear because it's not necessary that whatever happened with my dad is going to happen to me as well. So I need to loosen up. I was already pretty upset, which annoyed me even more and I told her that speaking in a different tone is not going to change the fact that whatever she's saying, I don't agree with it and being gentle doesn't necessarily mean that she's right. And once and for all, I needed her to know that we couldn't afford the kind of lifestyle that she was asking for. On our combined current income, we would find it easy to maintain the lifestyle we had had so far. but without her share, it would become very difficult. And whatever our current income was, that was all that we could afford because the emergency fund is not to be used and that's final and nothing she can say or do is going to change my mind about it now. That's when her tone changed again. She started fighting with me and said that I was being unreasonable and crazy, and if I was going to be this way, then she really didn't want to be with me anymore. So I told her that she was free to leave. I hadn't even asked her to come back. I was planning on telling our parents that we were planning on canceling the wedding anyway. Then she started crying, claiming that I didn't even love her enough to care about what she wanted and accused me of being way too money-minded for my own good. She called me a miser and said that she couldn't believe I was letting her go over something like this and said that she was very disappointed that I wasn't even willing to fight for our relationship. So I told her that I had tried to fight. I had done my best to keep it going, but since she had made it very clear that she was not willing to understand compromise on something like this, it was way too big of a deal and it was clear that she wasn't willing to do that either. Clearly, we want different things from life and it's obviously not a good idea to get married anymore. So we can go our separate ways now. There's no point in sitting and cribbing about it. She got very mad and started cursing at me and then she started going around the house and packing her things. All the while she was doing that, she was still yelling at me saying the most vile and untrue things about me and kept calling me a miser and even said that I was a miserable and stingy loser who didn't even deserve her. So I told her that she was just a gold digger and I didn't even want her anymore because even I had had enough of her BS. Towards the end, right before she was about to leave, things got really bad because we ended up cursing at each other until I got so mentally exhausted that I had to threaten her with the cops so that she would just leave. This is not how I had wanted to end things. I had wanted things to be a little more dignified, but this is what she chose. Anyway, she's gone now and I'm pretty sure that I don't have to communicate anything to her parents anymore because the wedding is definitely off. She can tell them herself. I'm gonna tell my parents and hopefully we can end this without more drama now. I've just done with her and everything to do with her and I'm currently just regretting the fact that I ever even started dating her. Update 3. Hi, so a couple of things. I know that from my previous update it seemed like I'm probably the kind of guy who's never up to spending any money at all, and let me just tell you guys that's not true. I'm really not a miser like she had made it out to be. It's just that I'm mindful of how and where I spend my money and I don't like wasting it unnecessarily, which I think is reasonable outlook to have. I do, however, occasionally indulge myself in things that are expensive like going out to a fancy restaurant once in a while, splurging on stuff I like and traveling and things like that. And she's been a part of all those experiences, so I don't know what she's talking about. And I don't know how she even had the audacity to call me stingy knowing that I have spent more money on her than she has on me even though we make the same kind of money. And I've never even brought it up because I thought it would be tacky, but now I'm bringing it up because I think it's important because it's been a couple of days since we fought and she left and I told my parents that we were not having the wedding anymore and I would speak to all the vendors and get the money back, whatever we could manage. And they were fine with it. But then they called me up a couple of hours later and said that they had received a phone call from her parents, and they had basically said that they wanted the entire money back and we would not be splitting anything so my parents wouldn't get anything back because they think that this is all my fault. They believe that the wedding is not happening because of me, so my parents don't deserve to get their money back. It's obviously ridiculous and insane. So I decided to speak to them myself, and as soon as they picked up, they told me that they were not going to change their minds about anything, and I was so upset that it was that I was going to take them to court if they messed with me. And then I hung up on them since they didn't have anything more to say. But later, just an hour ago, I received a call from Ada. I didn't pick up, so she texted me and told me that I had no right to speak to her parents that way and said that they were right about everything. She also believes that the wedding is not happening because of me and that's why my parents don't deserve to get their money back now. It's genuinely so insane and I really can't believe that they actually think that this is a completely valid point. I didn't reply to her text, I just blocked her. But then she called me from a burner phone half an hour back, and I guessed that it must have been her so I ignored it and I was about to block that number as well, but then she texted me saying that I absolutely had to pick up and I couldn't run away from the situation like a coward. That text really annoyed me and I got baited, unfortunately, so when she called me a couple of hours later, I picked up immediately and put her on blast. I told her that if the wedding getting cancelled was anybody's fault, it would be hers. I told her that she was acting like a complete and total gold digger. Which is when I brought up how I had spent so much money on her in spite of earning just as much as her, and she had the audacity to call me stingy, and right now, given the way her parents were behaving, I wasn't surprised because I could see where she got it from. She obviously got really mad that I had said anything about her parents, and then she started cursing me out and said that she had been calling to talk things out with me and come to a civilized conclusion, but now she was going to make sure that I regretted every single word that I said against her and her parents. I told her to go right ahead mostly because I knew that she wouldn't be able to do anything and these were all empty threats, and then I hung up and I blocked the other number as well. Honestly, I don't know when it came to a point like this and how it got so ugly, but I'm glad that we decided to call off the wedding because everybody's true colors are coming out now. I can't believe that her parents, who I had such a good relationship with so far, who had been so nice to my parents all along, are turning out to be people like this. It's really just shocking, and it just goes to show that you think you know people, but you really don't. You only get to see the side that they choose to show you. This has all been a huge disappointment and shock, not just for me but also for my parents because they had really accepted Ada as their daughter-in-law and were very happy about our decision to get married. I know it has come to a point like this. I just can't even believe that this is all happening and we are being so nasty to each other. But it is what it is. I just hope that things get sorted out soon. We are able to separate the whole financial thing and end it so we can get a clean break. I really didn't want things to get so ugly and I still don't. But she's pushing me and I just can't deal with it. Update 4. Hey, so it's been a week since my last update, and for the past week I've just been very busy dealing with all the vendors, canceling everything and trying to get our money back. I thought that she was going to try and do the same thing, but surprisingly she hasn't tried to talk to them at all. But I'm still going to do the honest thing, and whenever I get the refund from the vendors who had been paid by her parents, I'm going to return it to them because it's the right thing to do. What she would have done or what her parents wanted is not that important to me. In the past week a lot of things have changed and I've spoken to all my friends and told them about the breakup. We still haven't made it public, but I have taken down every post I had with her and I'm pretty sure that people must have taken note. However, they've been giving me my space. Nobody has asked me anything about it, and I'm grateful for that because I'm really not ready to take questions from anyone right now. Mentally and emotionally, I've pretty much checked out, and all I'm doing is just focusing on my work and trying to keep myself distracted at home. My parents have been a huge source of support for me at this time because things have been difficult, and now that my friends know, even they are checking up on me now and then and haven't heard from her or her parents, and I'm hoping that they keep it that way because I really don't want to talk to them and make things worse than they already have become. I really wanted to keep everything respectful, dignified and civil, but that unfortunately did not happen. Now though, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I don't play into their hands and end up lowering myself to their level, because I hate to say it, but they were the ones who stirred up all this drama even though I was not interested in it at all. Anyway, I still remember the fact that she said she was going to make sure that I regretted everything, so I don't know if she's just gearing up to do something about that. Whatever the case is, and regardless of what she tries to do after this, I'm going to make sure that I try to be mindful of what I say and how I react to things because I just don't want to stress myself out even more. What's done is done. I can't go back into the past and undo anything, but the least I can do is prevent things from getting worse in the future. I just hope that she's thinking along similar lines and is willing to let it all go gracefully now. Update 5. So, hi. It's been a year since my last update and honestly, I just forgot about this sub because after the last update, I got too busy with my life. Just to bring you guys up to speed. She didn't do anything. After I got the refund from all the vendors, I sent a paycheck to her parents for whatever they were owed and then she blocked me everywhere. A couple of months later, she showed up at my house on the weekend with a friend and a pickup truck and asked me if she could pack up the rest of her things as well and take them with her to her new apartment. She was very civil and polite, nothing like the last time we had interacted. So I agreed and that was the last time that we saw each other. She took her things and left and after that we were done. Several months have passed since then and last week I heard from a couple of friends that she's engaged again. I thought that was a pretty quick relationship and engagement because we had only been broken up for 1 year, but they told me from what they have heard, she and her new fiance have been together for the past 3 months and he seems quite taken with her, given their social media presence, so it's not surprising that he agreed to such a quick engagement. I guess it's good for her. I hope she's happy in her life now and gets whatever she wants because I honestly don't have the time or energy to hold on to grudges anymore. I'm working hard, staying single, and every now and then I take some time off to travel and get my mind off of things, so I guess I would say that I'm doing well.